Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a sad day. As most of you know, I've had that 3.5, or pardon me, 4.5 month old Jersey calf in my house with me for a few weeks now, spending every night and every day tending to him, keeping a very close eye on him. And like always, they start to look better. They look like they're starting to get more spunk back into them, and they fight to try and stand up, but they can't. And then the next few hours later, they look like they're lifeless. And then a few hours later, they're eating hay, milk replacer. They're drinking the electrolytes. I only had to tube feed him once. Last night, started around 11 p.m. He started to stress out, breathing very rapidly at 62 respirations per minute. By 2:30 in the morning, saliva was coming out of his mouth. He was struggling to breathe. This is a bull calf that I had great plans for, to be a breeder for the limo heifer I have calf. I wanted to crossbreed with this Jersey bull with that limo calf. It's been a long night for me. I was up all night with it. I tubed him, supplying oxygen into his lungs, trying to help him. He's been receiving 8 cc's of penicillin daily, 3 treatments a day of Calf Light 2. As it all started off as most people would know it as diarrhea, but it's scours in cattle language, which cleared up. Everything firmed up nicely. He looked like he was doing better. Night before last, it's just dark brown water coming out of him. I increased the electrolytes to 4 doses that day. I called the vet and asked advice, and he outright told me that was nothing more that even if he came here, that he could do, that I wasn't already doing. This is the 5th calf I've lost this winter to this same problem. They look good in the barn. They're nice and warm in there at night. They're put out in the morning, providing it's not extremely windy and cold. And if it's just cold, they go out, but if it's the wind, I make sure they stay in. But they've all went the same way this year. Exactly the same way. I did have 2 recover from it. Otherwise I would have lost more. Everything I know about it leads to from their systems lead to not enough colostrum when they were born. As not enough colostrum attacks their muscular system, which their legs go out from them. They can't get up. They can't stay standing. They collapse and they can't get up. Which I gave them many doses each of colostrum, 100 milligrams at a time, at $47 Canadian a dose. But it's too late at this age. Now they did well, every one of them, till 4.5 months. And then all of a sudden they went down, just like this Jersey did. 4.5 months to the date on every one that I lost. And they were calves that I got later in the summer. The ones I got early in March, or April and May. No, March and April, sorry. All the calves I got back in there, they're healthy as can be. Never a problem with them, except for the one that went down in the bush there for 4 days that I had to skid up the hill, if you recall that video. And then once I got him up in the yard, the sucker stood up after me spending night after night down there with a fire burning to keep the wolves away from him. Well, this one here, this Jersey, it lost his battle. He fought hard. He had his good hours where I thought he was going to be okay, but I know better than to get my hopes up. And this is the one thing I want you to understand. If you raise any livestock, you think they're resilient animals because of the size of them, when actually they're more delicate than a baby child. They can be good one minute and down the next. And it seems no treatment is guaranteed. You know, when I first started doing this 37 years ago, I thought to myself, well, calves are easy to raise. You know, they're a big animal, they're tough. No, they're not. The first 6 months is crucial. Things can turn bad within an hour. And they'll get worse. That's what I've learned over 37 years. I'm very disappointed this morning. I'm upset because I had plans for this guy. Because the chances of finding another bull Jersey calf in this area is rare, very rare. And I put a lot of money into trying to revive this guy, get him back on his feet. I spent every night up checking on him, hour after hour, day in and day out, making sure that he got enough nutrition into him every day, and liquids. Makes you feel like you failed. It makes you feel like you didn't do everything you possibly could do. It makes you feel there was something else that you could have done. Especially when you've lost 5 in a row since this crazy weather started back in the fall. And sure, they've been kept warm in the barn, the young ones. But with temperatures one day in the fall of -15 and the next day -1, -2, and damp, that plays a toll on them as well. Now I don't know if it is a colostrum deficiency. I only know by what I've seen, what I've been through in 37 years, and what I've read. That if the calf doesn't get sufficient colostrum in the first 24 hours, it can suffer from muscle failure, which first attacks the limbs and then attacks the respiratory system, making it very difficult for them to breathe. So don't assume because calves are a big animal when they're born that they're resilient. They're more delicate than your newborn child. And that I know. The child can bounce back fast. I've had calves that have recovered that have taken me 3 months to get them back on their feet. And it's taking another 8 months to get the weight back on them. After spending countless hours and sleepless nights in the barn with them, or in this case in the house with them. It was basically with this calf, it was basically like putting a trachea into a calf as they would in a human to supply oxygen to his lungs. As he was frothing at the mouth of saliva, trying to breathe, and his tongue sticking out. Did I put him down? No. Should I have? Yes. Because it was tough going for him. But I also believe in giving them every chance possible. I was on the phone yesterday with the vet as well when his respirations went up. Because I knew he was in trouble. I knew. And I knew there wasn't much I could do anymore. But to try to keep him comfortable, keep my fingers crossed that I could still treat him. And just maybe there might be that 2% chance I can get him through it. But I couldn't. He passed away at 3:18 this morning. Now, this really hits hard because this not only affects me, this affects the food supply to families in need that I supply, the shelters that I supply, the children that I supply. The schools I supply. And when I say supply, I don't mean sell. I give it all away. I only make $1,056 a month Canadian on my disability pension for breaking my back working in a bush camp for a big corporation back in 1988. Do I sell the animals? Sometimes I have to. maybe 5%. I don't like to, but sometimes I just don't have the money for the feed. And they got to be fed every day, and they got to be fed well. So I'm left to sell the odd one, or a couple of turkeys, or a couple of meat birds, or a few dozen eggs to pay for that next round bale of hay, or the next ton of corn that I feed only in the winter, and a little tiny bit in the summer, just so they don't get much feed, corn, but it gives them that extra warmth in their bellies in the colder weather, in the cooler summer nights, in the damp summer nights. We're lucky if we see 75 degrees here in the summertime. The odd time 80, but that's very rare. And for 27 head, a couple of coffee cans of corn in the summertime isn't much for each animal. Because other than that, they're grass-fed and hay. But in the wintertime, they get more than that. Approximately 2.5 gallons they get for 27 head in the wintertime. On the warmer days, like today, where it's only -5, and I'm down 6 calves. So they'll get probably a 4-liter ice cream pail today, midday. The rest is hay. Now, I've been buying first cut hay at $40 a bale. It's nice hay. It's not dusty. It's nice green inside. The outside has got a little black layer on it, but you take that off, and I give that to the chickens to shred up for their bedding. I could buy second cut hay. That's horse quality hay at $75 a bale. And they're about 1,000-pound bales. The bale doesn't last long, in the cold weather especially. I can go through one bale every 3 days. But that same bale could last, on a warmer day, could last 2 weeks. This is the first winter as well that I've had to deal with frozen water lines at the barn, even though they're heat traced. Now that's got to be pretty cold. With the winds, especially. It can be cold, and they don't freeze. But you add that wind in there, and even though they're wrapped well in insulation and foil, I've had to drag 300 feet of hose out of the root cellar to fill up their water troughs, because the 1-inch water line going into the barn just froze up. So I have to rent a mini excavator this summer, dig up that water line, and add more heat trace to it. Because something is changing in this world. 37 years, this is 37 years, 36 years, never had a problem with that water line. Is the heat trace failing? Possibly. But that's a job I have to do this summer, is rent a mini excavator. Because I can't dig that by hand. It's red clay here. Hard rock red clay. You can't even put a pick into it. And it makes me feel good to supply these families in need. in the shelters with food better than they could get from any store. There's no chemicals in it. Unlike the stuff you buy in the store that has brought out more cancer, more sugar diabetes, things that we've never heard of before, like this one girl I knew, same age as me. She contracted scleroderma. It's not heard of. It's very rare. It's very rare. Most people haven't even heard of it. But it's a disease that attacks your inner organs until it kills you. But it tortures the hell out of the person before then. I lost a good friend not long ago to that. And it's all got to do with what we buy in our stores. There's more pesticides, herbicides, and additives to the meat, vegetables, fish, you name it, for longer storage life. Keep that more brighter red color. I used to work in a meat processing plant when I was in my 20s. I know what went on there. I couldn't eat meat for 3 years. That's what put me into this. People that can't drink or eat dairy because it's bought in the corner store or the shopping malls, grocery stores. They can't eat or drink that. But yet they can drink raw milk. Raw farm milk. Some can't still, but 99% of them can drink number 1 milk, or number 2 milk, sorry, which has come from goats. And they can eat the cheese from it, the yogurt from it. It's a number 2 milk. I believe it's called G2. But they can't eat the stuff that is in the supermarkets. Others, the stuff bought in the supermarket, they break out in hives. 100 years ago, there wasn't half the sickness we have today. That's right, folks. There wasn't half the sickness that we have today. It's funny how the government allows producers to use these chemicals and stuff in food to preserve it, but yet they ban us from using herbicides in our own property. They ban us from using insecticides to control the infestation of the spruce bud beetle, or the armyworm, that attacks our plantations and kills them. My 37 acres, every spruce tree was attacked. I had to have it all cut out. I reseeded, replanted it with a few hundred trees that were okay. But yet I can't spray any of it to control that spruce budworm, or the armyworm, or any other insect for all that matter, that devastates the forests or your front yard. And yes, I used insecticides, and what happened to me, and you can research this, it brought on, from me using insecticides, it brought on hyperactive thyroid with Graves' disease. I almost died. It was triggered by the herbicide. It sent my thyroid into such a loop, tailspin, that I went from my lifetime weight of 195 pounds down to 137. I look like a bone rack. Yes, I look like a bone rack. I was going to emergency with severe joint pain, so bad I was crying, screaming in pain, and the doctor said I had hyperactive bowel syndrome. They treated me for that. No response. I went to emerge again and again and got diagnosed something else. One doctor even emerged, said, "You're just here for drugs, go home." Until one day I had to go in for oil surgery in my mouth for a root that went through my sinus from one of my molar teeth. And they had to repair my sinus, and I had a heart attack on the table. And yeah, they came in to see me in the recovery room and said that I've got to take care of that thyroid. I didn't know what they were talking about. I was still half out of it. I was referred to a specialist. This was a year and 3 months later of me complaining of the severe joint pain, racing heart all the time. The drugs I had to take to counteract the allergic reaction to the drugs that I was taking to slow my thyroid down. I thought I was a goner. I couldn't hold my head up for months. I didn't have the strength to even eat. But yet I was hungry all the time, but I was losing weight so fast. It took over a year of drugs and stuff to slow my thyroid down enough that they could burn it out with radioactive iodine. Once it got slowed down enough, they treated me with radioactive iodine to burn my thyroid out. And for the first 2 years, I didn't have to take any thyroid replacements, nothing. Then I started on 0.5 milligram of thyroid replacement when I hit 229 pounds. Now I have balanced out at 205, and that's where I've been ever since. Whereas all my teenage life and up into my early 40s, I was 195 pounds, and I could eat pastries, ice cream, until I was stuffed every day, and I wouldn't go up from that 195. And still to this day, I can eat pastries and cookies and you name it. And I might go up from 205 to 208, but then I come back down again. Not because I stopped eating this stuff, it's just a fluctuation in the thyroid replacement. So folks, that's the bad news I bring you today. I'm in sorrow over this loss. I'm frustrated. I was looking forward to this calf being a breeder, not only to supply milk to help feed the calves that I bring in from dairy farmers, but also to supply more meat, that I wouldn't have to buy as many calves from the dairy farmers. My plan this year is to increase my herd, add pigs, because the growing demand here is getting larger and larger every month, with layoffs, job losses. Hydro One just put how many hundreds out of jobs because they moved their whole operations to Sudbury, Ontario, and nobody down there knows what is even up here, and there's so much loss. in communication from there to the people up here. And that put many people out of work. And they haven't finished moving their whole operations yet. They figure they'll be complete moving everything to Sudbury, Ontario by about March the 1st. So there'll be more jobs lost here because they're moving everything, the whole operation, to Sudbury, Ontario. Most of it is already there, but there's still quite a bit to be moved. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd appreciate it if you could spare $1 or $2 and use one of the links below to donate to help me help families and children and shelters in need in this ever-growing demand. In 37 years that I've been doing it, I've never seen it so bad. Thank you, and have a great day.